Jeff, welcome. How are you today, okay?
Yeah, doing great. Great to see baseball still high heat here in Kansas City with all the owners here in town.
There you go. We'll get to that in a sec. Let's first talk Billy Butler. Nobody could be that surprised that he got 3 years, $30 million. Maybe there's a little remorse there from Kansas City, but no shock that he leaves, correct?
Well, really no shock. I think if you look at Billy Butler, he's been a huge factor in the Royals over the last several years, a guy that's a professional hitter. He has declined with the power over the last couple, 3 years, but he's a guy that I think everyone would love to have seen in a royal blue uniform in the future. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen, but Billy Butler, certainly a great opportunity for him to go to a team with the Oakland A's and contribute. And I think maybe last year a little bit of a decline in Billy because obviously a pressure-packed year with him with that big $12.5 million option out there, and maybe a little case that tried too hard for Billy and unfortunately didn't work out. As a result, the Royals did not bring him back.
Excellent point. Now, do you think if he had a better year, they would have picked up that $12 million option, or is that too much for them to bite anyway, $12.5 million for a DH?
Well, it might be a little too much for this team because obviously a small mid-sized market with regards to the revenue constraints that you have to be smart with your money, and there's a lot of question marks with this ball club with regards to some of those pieces, and I think they have to look at what are their abilities. They know that they've got a lot of athletic players. They can play a lot of players in different positions, and to commit that type of money to a designated hitter, I think somewhat hamstrings you a little bit with regards to your payroll. And I look for them to try to find somebody who has a little more versatility than just being a designated hitter.
Excellent point. I don't think Ryan Howard, I know that was rumored early on. I think Howard would want to play a little first base anyway. He can't with Hosmer sitting there. So where do the Royals go? They lose Shields. They're going to. We know they lose Hosmer. Or they lose Butler. Have some money to work with, of course, a little bit. They won last year. Got to a seventh-game World Series. There's a rebirth of baseball. They just can't stand pat. They have to do something. Maybe Melky Cabrera. What's up with Kansas City, Jeff? If you were Dayton Moore, the GM, what would you do as far as the ball club is concerned?
I would love to see Torrey Hunter playing right field because he is a player that still has something left in the tank. He knows how to win. He's a player that he just brings a lot to the table. If you look at the Royals, what Raul Ibanez did for them from a leadership standpoint in the clubhouse last year, a guy who is an experienced professional hitter, didn't get a lot of playing time, but he added a tremendous element as far as the leadership down the stretch and then during the postseason for the Royals. And if you get a Torrey Hunter, you wrap all of that same commodity into one package, and now you've got a player who contributes on the field as well as the ability and the know-how to win in the clubhouse. I think that would be a perfect fit for Torrey Hunter and the Kansas City Royals.
All right, they're going to have to probably give him that second year. Anything else? They need some pitching without Shields. We love Duffy. We love Ventura. I mean, they still have, obviously, Finnegan they can put in that rotation. Vargas is signed. Do they make a move with a pitcher or not?
I would say they're going to still stay in the game for James Shields. Everyone's making the assumption that he's gone, but I think the market will dictate whether the Royals are able to get him. I think the Royals probably are looking at doing something on what I would call more of a short-term basis, probably like maybe a 3-year situation, but I don't think they're willing to go out 5-6 years with a guy who's going to be 33 years old next year. And as everyone knows, he's a workhorse. He puts up a ton of innings, 220-plus innings this year is kind of his norm, 33, 34 starts every season. But obviously there's so much tread on the tire, and at some point it wears out, and you just don't want to be stuck in a situation in a market like Kansas City where you've got 3 or 4 years committed to a guy. You can't get that production.
I know this is going to sound wacky, but they're not going to be able to keep the both of them down the road anyway. How about trading the closer and make Wade Davis the closer? I know you're going to say, Chris, hold on now. What are you, nuts? I get it, and I don't want to upset that great bullpen. I don't want to break it up either, but they can get a lot for Holland, and they can move Davis into that spot, and they still got Herrera there in the 8th inning. You could think about doing that to really add a lot of components. What's your thought process behind that?
Well, there's a lot of talk about that, and there has been over the last couple of years. Greg Holland's a guy that has put up incredible numbers, become one of the top closers in baseball. So certainly there would be a market for a Greg Holland. But how does Wade Davis respond if you put him in that closer's role? That's somewhat of an unknown. And I think the Royals have learned, especially during the stretch and in the postseason this year, the importance of having a bullpen that is almost automatic. And I think that's the real factor. You may be taking a little bit of a gamble, and I think they're looking to maybe actually add some depth to the bullpen. They understand how important this is, especially when you've got a younger Ventura, you got a younger Duffy. It just makes their job so much easier knowing they only have to go out and complete 6 innings every time out there. So I'd be surprised if they trade Holland, but I don't think it'll be a bad situation for anybody involved. And then you just, like you say, bump up Davis, you bump up Herrera, and they got a lot of other good young arms in that bullpen.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to do it either. It's just kind of food for thought. But I think on last thing, Jeff, I think there's some pressure on the Royals right now. I mean, it's one thing to be a team on the rise, that maybe this team is going to gel. Well, that happened second half of last year. It happened in October. But now you bring up the expectation level, and nobody's going to be satisfied if the team's 9 games out on the All-Star break next year. They want to see this team be very good right from the get-go. They're not going to buy the fact, well, we couldn't afford it. I mean, they will understand Butler. They might understand Shields, but you're going to have to put the money back into that ball club. And if you raise the payroll some, you're going to have to raise the payroll some. So there's actually, I would think, if I'm a Royal fan, some expectations on this franchise right now. What's your take on that?
Oh, without a doubt. People here now are going to be expecting to be wearing royal blue in October again next season. We saw the city really overwhelmed with the success of this team, the excitement. There's an expectation now that they have to win, because last year was the year that everyone had kind of banked on. Win in 2014. Finally, it happened. Somewhat of a surprise or unexpected that they made it to the World Series, but now there's an expectation coming out of the gate. These guys are expected to be the top dog in the American League Central, and the Central Division is going to be a pretty interesting division next year.
Yeah, and improved too. Great to talk, Jeff. Keep up the good work. Appreciate you coming on today.
You bet. Thanks, Chris.